Well, hey there, reader friends. I'm Erica, and I am an inconsistent booktuber. It's been about a month since I've posted a video. I'm not really going to apologize, but I do understand if that is frustrating to you. I don't want to go into a lot of details, but basically March was crazy and I had a difficult, mental health month. And when that happens to me, I tend to disconnect from things online and just kind of recalibrate myself. So that's what I did in March, but I'm feeling a lot better. I got some help, went to some therapy, I'm still in some therapy, and yeah, I'm ready to film. I'm ready to go. I posted a poll about a week ago asking what video you guys would like to see, and I'm very happy because I think 60%, over 60% said whatever I wanted to post you'd be happy to see. And then the number 2 winner of the poll was a discussion video. So I'm going to discuss something today. Since beginning BookTube in July 2017, several of my booktuber friends have hated books that I love, which has led me to this question: do good books actually exist? Now, I was an English major, so I spent a lot of time critiquing books and saying that these books were good, and these books were bad, and these authors wrote well, and these authors wrote poorly, and so I guess theoretically I'm supposed to be an expert in this, but I don't feel like an expert. I'm going to start with an example. One book series that I really like, that I really enjoy, that I have yet to see a single person on BookTube like, are the Wolves of Mercy Falls books by Maggie Stiefvater. I really like these books. I really like them. I like the characters, I like the premise, I like the way the novels are laid out, I like them. But I have yet to see someone else who does. And so then I find myself riddled with doubt and insecurity. Do I actually know what good books are? Am I a fraud? And then another instance has happened recently where a book that I hated, I now am actually really enjoying. And that book is, well, it's not really the book because I didn't read this book, but the author is Virginia Woolf. I had to read Virginia Woolf in college and loathed her, really didn't like it at all, and now I'm finding I really like her and I like her writing. Again, do I not know what a good book is? I don't know. So let's explore this. Let's go a little deeper. Let's see what's going on underneath the surface. What makes a good book? The first characteristic that immediately came to mind to me when I think about good books is good writing. I think that good books have to have good writing. And I don't just mean by this that they're well written. The writing has to be enjoyable, or it's stimulating, or intriguing. It has to lift the narrative up. But then if I look on the other side of things, I have books that I really enjoy and that I think are good books that don't have good writing, namely smutty books and romances. Let's be honest. But I don't think those are bad books. I think that maybe expectation comes into play. If something is being published as a fiction title, a literary fiction title, I expect there to be a certain caliber of writing. But if something's published as a pop romance novel, then maybe my expectations for the writing are lower. But in general, once a book gets to a certain level of poor writing, I can't continue, and I don't think it's a good book. A second common characteristic I find in good books are interesting dynamic characters. I'm the type of person who enjoys character-driven novels over plot-driven ones. So for me, for a book to be good, I have to be invested in the main character. Even if they're flawed, even if they're not the best, I have to be invested in their story, and I also like to see some type of character growth or character change throughout the book. I also enjoy it if there are really interesting side characters, if there are secondary characters that really contribute to the plot and to the character development of the primary character. Characterization is a big part of what draws me into a book, and really well done characterization makes a book a higher rated read for me automatically, even if the plot has holes, even if the writing's not necessarily the best. If the character is dynamic and interesting, I think that makes a good book. Another common characteristic of good books for me are books that have really strong, well-developed world building. And this includes fantasy primarily, but also even contemporaries. I want the world I'm reading about to be believable. I want the author to have invested time, energy, and thought into how their world works. And when they don't, it's not a good book. Now I'd like to consider something that's just for me. If something's a good book, I have to enjoy it. Like, if I don't enjoy a book, I'm not gonna probably call it a good book. And this bucks up against a lot of English, like, major thought, a lot of literary critics' thoughts. I think that if you don't enjoy a book, it's not a good book, and I don't care if it's so well written. My enjoyment of a book matters, and therefore if I don't enjoy a book, it's not a good book. But then I think if that's my criteria of a good book, then is there such a thing as a good book? Because different people enjoy different books, and that's okay. This is really like a mind bender of a question. Do good books exist? I think that this is something that a lot of people could spend their entire lives discussing and do, like literary critics, book reviewers. So going back to the beginning, why I decided to open up this whole discussion, I find it interesting when booktubers don't like books that I do, that I am immediately, like I said, feeling kind of like maybe I missed something with that book, but also that I want to immediately comment on their video and defend that book I like, which is not the best way, I think, to engage in a discussion. Because ultimately, I think that it's okay if we don't like the same books, and that it's okay if I really love a book and someone else doesn't. But the problem I have is when people then say, I don't like this book, and that makes this book bad. But on the flip side, I always say if I like a book, that's part of what makes it a good book for me. And if that's the case, if a good book is such a subjective thing, does it actually exist? Is there actually such a thing as a book that is good just by itself? Or do our interpretations, our enjoyment of a book affect whether or not it's good? I don't know about this because in a certain regard, I do feel like we should have some sort of criteria for what makes a book a good book, because that's part of what book reviewers do. That's part of why we do what we do. We want to share with people the books that are good. But at the same time, again, can a book be good or bad if nobody actually reads it? Is a book's value inherently linked to whether or not it's read? And by extension, could we say that a book's value increases as more people read it? I love discussing books, and I actually really enjoy having discussions with people who think about books differently than I do, who maybe like books that I don't, or don't like books that I do like, because it opens up new facets of the book itself for me. So I find that really stimulating and interesting. But at the same time, you know, sometimes I want to be like, you just didn't understand this book, okay, and it's good, and just let it be good and let me think that it's good. But that totally discounts that other person's experience and their authority and their right to say, I don't think this is a good book. Who's the judge? Who decides? Because I don't know if there's an actual authoritative answer to this. I don't know if there's actually a way that we can have a shared, agreed upon designation of what makes a good book. I don't know if that's possible. I think that we're always going to disagree about books. I think there's always going to be books that are better to certain people and worse for other people. I've kind of just decided that when people don't like books that I love, I'm just not going to comment on their video, even though sometimes I really want to, because I don't know if that's what they want. I don't know if that's helpful. I don't know if it's something where they really want to have a further discussion about it. And I don't know if I myself am able to disconnect from the discussion enough to be able to have a civil discussion when I'm so emotionally invested in that book being a good book. I don't know how to do it. Do any of you guys have these problems? Are any of you in similar boats? I would like to know, because I don't like feeling like I'm alone in this, and I don't think I am, because I know a lot of people have experienced similar things where we love a book and someone reads it and is like meh, or they don't like it, and then I don't know, are you like me? Are you kind of like feeling insecure that you like a book that maybe isn't a good book, like you thought it was a good book but maybe it's not? Do you get riddled with insecurity like I do sometimes? Let me know, guys. Let me know. I'd really love to hear everyone's comments on this. I'd really like to know what you consider a good book, and also if you think that good books actually exist. I would be really, really curious to know, because I think it's something that maybe if we remove this idea of trying to find and share good books with people, I think that could really revolutionize how we talk about books. I mean, we rate books, right? We finish a book and we give it a number of stars based on how good it was or how good we think it was. And I am curious about this because I do feel that sometimes people's decisions for how they designate what gets a star, how many stars, is different. It's not standardized. My star rating is very, 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 very affected by how much I enjoyed a book. I try to include those more critique-based standards as well in my reviews, but at the end of the day, no book is going to get a 5-star rating if I didn't enjoy it. That often is what bumps a book up to 5 stars for me, is if I enjoyed it. And that's also what sometimes causes me to ignore those more objective standards and not give them as much credit. I mean, let's face it, I gave A Court of Mist and Fury 5 stars, and if we were looking at writing standards for that book, and no, in that regard, it is not a 5-star book. But if we're basing our, standard on that, on enjoyment, then is there actually a standard? I don't know, guys. This is just making my head hurt, and it's really making my head hurt. But I would love to know your thoughts, and you can leave them down in the comments. If you want to do a response video, that's okay too. Just go ahead and let me know down below so I know to watch it. Thanks to everyone that's been subscribing in the wake of my hiatus. That was not intended, but just kind of happened. I appreciate this support. And if you have anything else you'd like to say, let me know, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys. The cat's scratching. Sorry, guys. Hey! I try to include those more critical